Here, there was content for the game, there were educational goals, there were rules and roles for the players, but it was a single player game. It was single player. What does single player mean? It means single player. There is no multiplayer, no competition, no two people training each other like boxing. No, this is a single player learning on his own in an educational environment. The dimensions are smooth, and he is holding the stick, not holding the sticks. If that were the case, he would get an error and messages. Yes, it was an application. This application was amazing. They created a program called Unity 3D, and it worked well. Doctor has been an assistant professor 15 years. Now she completed her master's PhD and is now promoted to associate professor in Egypt. Hard work shows. Educational game strategy showed gains and losses. Errors show an X in red. Correct answers are green, wrong ones red. Right actions show green, wrong ones show red, X. She excelled in her master's, got her doctorate, and is now an associate professor in Egypt. Educational game strategy clarified gains and losses. Errors showed an X. The X is in red, and colors show correct answers in green. If the player is right, it shows green. If wrong, an X in red. They can't continue with mistakes as correct answers aren't counted until fixed. Now, he explains steps. Right steps are great. Wrong steps mean going back. Simulations represent real situations like bird embalming or dissection. It's not reasonable to dissect birds in class. My science teacher used to bring a rabbit, slaughter it, and cook it. I remember him. He was nice. In the real environment we discussed, it's not reasonable to show students how to dissect birds or bring a pigeon to do it in front of them. My science teacher in elementary school used to bring a rabbit annually, gather students, slaughter it, and take it home to cook. He would bring the rabbit for a dissection lesson, probably in middle school, explain, skin, and show the digestive system and blood vessels while taking it home to make soup. He brought one rabbit. Simulation with the students was with the doctor I worked with, in the style of educational games. It was an educational simulation game combining educational games and simulation, representing dissecting a pigeon within the environment. He used to bring a rabbit, a single rabbit. He had an anatomy lesson in middle school, almost in middle school. He would bring a rabbit, dissect it, skin it, cook it, take it home, show them the digestive system, stomach, everything, the blood vessels, and dissect it. He would take it while he was walking, meaning he would make a little drink on it and it would be fine. So not every day would he bring a rabbit. 4, Dr. Mohammed, the grade will come out as 4. So here, the simulation. As I mentioned, that was done with the students, was with the doctor I worked with, and it was in the style of educational games. It was an educational simulation game combining strategy and simulation, representing the situation of dissecting a pigeon. It's hard to bring a pigeon every day. I'm the one killing rabbits and pigeons to teach students about embalming. What's the benefit? The costs are high. A rabbit might escape and a pigeon might fly around, causing chaos. It's hard to bring a pigeon every day, and if I had to bring 100, I'd fail. I'd have to buy a pigeon cage, and I'd end up killing live creatures. So even the environmentalists would come and turn everything upside down on me. I'm the one killing rabbits and pigeons to teach students about embalming. What do I get out of that? The costs are high, and there's a risk involved. A rabbit might run away from me, and a pigeon might fly around the classroom, and everything would go crazy. So there's a cost involved, because I have to buy a pigeon cage, and it costs money to buy 5 or 6 rabbits. I've tried this rabbit thing before, and then I drew it on the pigeon and told them I'd bring the pigeon already slaughtered, not alive, in my office. Because at first I brought the pigeon alive and it was flapping around. I was like, it's gonna fly, it's gonna fly. I told the doctor, you wanna work with something that will stay still? I said, yes, it should stay still. But the rabbit was aggressive. I mean, that rabbit, we wouldn't be able to catch it. So here in the simulation, there's a high cost involved, and the danger of the rabbit could bite me. I'm scared of rabbits because they're so aggressive and run so fast. He didn't say that I have nothing to do with it. Yes, I might see her eat it once or something. Why don't I bring it? How do I follow it? Simulations and educational games represent real situations on computers due to costs or risks. They cover complex scenarios like nuclear reactors, historical events. For example, narrating a historical battle helps students see events sequentially. Simulations can speed up slow processes like organism growth. In science faculties, fast chemical reactions are hard to observe. Simulations are ideal for health and science faculties, especially for lab experiments, allowing reactions to be slowed down and observed. Simulations of events like the conquest of Mecca help students view history sequentially. Rapid chemical reactions in science faculties are hard to observe, making simulations ideal for health and science labs. Unlike games, simulations alter time. In science faculties, chemical reactions happen at an incredible speed, and students can't observe the interaction between the different parts. So, the simulation method is ideal for health faculties or science faculties, especially since it relies on laboratory experiments. You put an acid on something to trigger a reaction, and this reaction happens in a fraction of a second. How can I slow down this reaction and observe it? Through simulation, and thus simulation is a little different from games because there is a word I am saying that contains an extra illusion or, for example, a change in time. Educational games, you practice the skill as you practice it in reality, but with simulation, I can speed up, just like speeding up plant growth or slowing down a chemical reaction, that the student can observe it accurately. All right? So we wrap up the part about games and the part about simulations. Honestly, I talked about discovery here, but I just want to make sure, because there are exactly 5 minutes left until the prayer. It's 5 minutes until the Maghrib prayer. The call to prayer is at 1:51 and it's 44. Okay? So I'll wrap up quickly. I just talked about, we're going to talk about educational games. And I mentioned before about knowledge segmentation and linked it to electronic discovery. I said that discovery has issues that confuse the learner, leaving them puzzled and with questions. The questions in electronic discovery are different from just the aspect of knowledge segmentation because there's an internal motivation due to the problem they're facing. Now, if I give you a comparison, knowledge segmentation by the teacher specifies a set of exploratory activities or tasks that the student performs under the guidance of the teacher, who directed the knowledge. The teacher guided the student to the activities. The teacher's knowledge segmentation specifies a set of exploratory activities or tasks that the student performs. Guided by whom? By the teacher. Who guided the student? The teacher guided them to the activities. Who told them to do that? The teacher. Who arranged the exploration activities? For him, the teacher. The electronic discovery, you see, stems from an internal learner issue, confusion and questioning, driving exploration and problem solving. I've covered most programmed learning aspects. Now on to problem solving and virtual classrooms. Problem solving aids learners via the flipped learning approach. After watching the video independently, I consider individual differences, allowing material review. Then, in sessions, I help tackle educational problems faced in flipped learning. I can present problems differently than the lesson, posing them in discussion forums for students to apply knowledge individually. Each learner responds in the forum, approaching problem solving this way. After providing the video, students learn independently, review the material, and then meet with me to address educational challenges in the flipped learning strategy. I present problems differently from the lesson. Students apply their knowledge to solve these individually. Finally, we focus on virtual classrooms and conclude with programmed learning. Here, I can present a problem in a completely different way than the required lesson. I can pose a problem to my students through the discussion forum and ask them to apply the knowledge I'm giving them or the content to solve this problem individually. Each learner responds individually through the discussion forum, and that's how we approach problem solving. All right, so what's left is one of the most important things, virtual classrooms, and I'll wrap up with programmed learning at the end.